Hi, listeners. Let me talk to you a little bit about satire. Someone I really don't usually cover, but I've heard recently from a lot of our pastors that some of those terms are on the test, and I really like her a lot. She's actually one of my favorite theorists. I can promise you, I remember her learning her when I went to college in that one-room schoolhouse. When dinosaurs roamed the land. She was the mother of therapy. She was one of the first women that we really saw in publication. She started off in probably about the 1950s and 60s. I always talk about 1955 being the important year that's when birth control was invented. And after that, that's when we saw the feminist movement, and we saw a lot of therapists, female therapists, who actually really came to the forefront. She did her work with children in alcoholic families. Most often she'll talk about dysfunctional families, but if you know her, she really looked at the children of alcoholics. She's a humanist. For all the tests, remember that humanists are therapists that put people first, theorists that put people first. So Margaret Mailer and Carl Rogers, as well as Maslow, are considered my humanists. They put people first. But I just want to drop a few points so we make sure that we understand what satire talked about. So she looked at unhealthy families. So what we look at are the roles that people play. So she also talked about many times how we communicate. So the roles that the children play, and again, we don't pick those roles, and she's not as much about birth order as Adler was, but she said there's a placater. That's the pleaser. That's the one who's always agreeable, wants to avoid conflict, apologizes excessively. An example would be my teenager who always says, "It's fine, whatever you want, even when upset." The blamer, that's the child that's aggressive, controlling, points out everybody else's faults. The example would be a father who says, "We're late again because you never do anything right." The message the child gets is, "I feel weak, but if I attack, I won't feel small." The super reasonable person, these are then the communication styles, that's the thinker. Feelings are unsafe. I must stay rational to survive. My irrelevant, or the distractor, that's the person that's always trying to keep the focus off the problem. Sometimes you'll see this as humor, right? The message is, if I confuse or entertain, no one will see my pain. I create family chaos. Sometimes it's sarcastic chaos, but I'm trying to really distract the family so no one knows what's really going on. And she also had a congruent communicator. That's a healthy role. That's the child in the family that's going to say something. Wait, there's something wrong here. This isn't working for us. We got to do something different. Now, as we look at those communication styles, remember she also had the roles. So if I look at the placater, according to satire, that would be the hero, the caretaker. They take responsibility, they try to try to fix the family and keep the peace. My blamer is then often my scapegoat, remember? And you'll see the scapegoat in group sessions as well. Sometimes we call the scapegoat the IP, the identified patient. They're really not the patient. We really don't believe that any one person has caused the problem in any family. A lot of families like to think that it's linear causality, but it's really not. It's circular causality. We're not sure what came first, the chicken or the egg. So my scapegoat, both in group as well as in individual sessions, is someone who acts out, they rebel, they become the target for family blame. In group, remember, I have to protect the scapegoat. Because most of the time in group or in families, right, if someone was blaming me for everything, if I had enough self-esteem, I'd step up and say, "I don't think so. No. I run group every weekend, and I can't imagine letting everybody in the group, and the majority of the group, beat up on one person." So I really have to protect the scapegoat. Most of us would just say, "I'm not coming back to group." The mascot, that's the same thing as a distractor. They use humor, jokes, and playfulness to lighten tension in the room. And the healthy one, again, is congruent communicator. That means they really are just being very honest. Congruency means what's coming out of my mouth matches my body, so you can tell that I'm being honest. I just want to drop that in because I've heard a lot of people recently, and a lot of my tests really talk about the role of Virginia Satir. So before I go, let me give you a question to see what it might look like. Remember, all the questions are usually very vague. So Satir used a lot of the other terms that some of our other therapists used. So she used sculpting, but the test usually gives that to Minuchin, right? Because he talks about the importance. I'm sorry, that's a strategic family therapy. Sorry about that. Sculpting is putting the family the way in the way they each of them sees each other in the lineup, like how close is mom to dad and how close is our children. But the therapist asked each family member to really physically arrange the people to see how close they were. So let's look at this question. A family presents with constant arguments. The mother takes on everyone's burden. The father criticizes often, and the teenage daughter cracks jokes to avoid tension. According to Satir, the therapist would most likely focus on who? Okay, or which one? So let me say the question again. A family presents with constant arguments. The mother takes on everybody's burden. The father criticizes often, and the daughter cracks jokes to avoid the tension. If I'm Satir, what would I focus on most? And here are my choices. A, explore unconscious drives. B, increase congruent communication and build self-worth. C, develop a structured behavior contract. And D, assign thought records to track cognitive distortions. Now, I hope you've been with me long enough to kind of get the feel of questions to know what can't be it. It's in the question, it gave me the name Satir, and remember, many times they don't even give me the name. So what can I rule out? A was explore unconscious drives. I'm going to take that out because I know that's a Freudian question. Freud's the only one that explores unconscious drives. B says increasing congruent communication and building self-worth. I'm going to leave that in for a minute. C says developing a structured behavior contract. I know when I see that, I think of behaviors. Most often I'm thinking of Skinner with rewards and consequences. No thoughts, no feelings, change your behavior with rewards and consequences. And D says assigning thought records to track cognitive distortions. Ding, 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 that's CBT. That cannot be my answer. So I've ruled out, even if I'm not sure which one I know, I do know what I can rule out. So, of course, this one would be increasing congruent communication and building self-worth, because that's what we want the families to do. That's what a healthy family looks like. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this one and learned a whole lot more about Virginia Satir. And thank you for being a member